For centuries, people across cultures have wondered what happens after we die. Some believe we cease to exist entirely, while others claim our souls are reborn, carrying memories from one life into the next. But what if I told you the US government, not a monk, not a mystic, but actual Army intelligence officers, conducted an official study that hints reincarnation might not just be a spiritual belief, but a scientific reality? In 1983, a classified report was submitted to U.S. Army intelligence by Lieutenant Colonel Wayne M. McDonnell. It was titled Analysis and Assessment of the Gateway Process. For years, this document remained hidden, buried deep in government archives, until it was quietly declassified by the CIA in 2003. But it wasn't until recently, thanks to social media and curious researchers, that this document finally exploded into public awareness. And what it contains might just change how we understand life, death, and consciousness itself. The Gateway Process was an experimental program developed by the Monroe Institute, a private organization focused on expanding human consciousness through sound frequencies, specifically binaural beats. These tones were designed to synchronize the left and right hemispheres of the brain, allowing participants to enter altered states of awareness. Think of it like meditation on steroids, engineered to help people access deep states of insight, out-of-body experiences, and in some cases, even past life memories. Now, here's where it gets interesting. McDonnell's report didn't dismiss these claims as pseudoscience. Instead, he provided a structured, almost scientific explanation for how the human brain might interact with the very fabric of time and space. According to the report, our consciousness is not confined to the body. In fact, he describes it as a form of non-physical energy, an oscillating pattern, capable of existing outside of the physical realm. And most importantly, McDonnell writes that consciousness does not die. It simply returns to what he calls the absolute, a universal energy field from which all consciousness originates. But he adds one line, just one, that has shaken readers ever since. When consciousness returns to the absolute, it brings with it all the memories it has accumulated through experience. Let that sink in. If our consciousness continues after death and retains memory from this life, what else could that be, other than reincarnation? This isn't some spiritual guru speaking. This is a military-grade intelligence analyst writing under the direction of the U.S. Army during the Cold War. The implications are staggering. If even a fraction of this is true, it means that death may not be the end, and that some part of us continues forward across time, gathering knowledge, life after life. To be clear, the word reincarnation never explicitly appears in the report, but the language is impossible to ignore. McDonnell speaks of consciousness as holographic, that is, every part contains the whole, and the whole exists within every part, much like ancient Vedic teachings that describe Atman, the soul, as a drop of the divine ocean. Whether he intended it or not, McDonnell's metaphysical analysis sounds eerily similar to the ideas found in Hinduism, Buddhism, and other reincarnation-centered philosophies. The West, it seems, was catching up to what the East has taught for millennia. But it gets even stranger. Page 25 of the original report is missing, completely redacted. In the CIA's released version, the document jumps from page 24 to 26 without explanation. The government claims it was never included. But skeptics and even former intelligence officers have questioned whether this missing page held sensitive information, possibly on how to manipulate or use consciousness-based technologies for military applications. Could it have included methods for accessing past lives or influencing human consciousness remotely? We may never know. Still, the Gateway Process wasn't just theory. In the same time frame, the U.S. military launched Project Stargate, where trained psychics, yes, real ones, attempted to spy on enemy nations through a technique called remote viewing. One of their star performers, Joe McMoneagle, claimed to have seen distant locations, top-secret facilities, and even described events that were later confirmed. It's all documented, and these aren't rumors. They're listed in actual declassified CIA files. When asked how it worked, McMoneagle referenced the same techniques discussed in the Gateway Process: meditation, altered states, full-body dissociation. If remote viewing is real and consciousness can move beyond the body, then why wouldn't reincarnation also be possible? But this isn't just about one report or one psychic program. In recent decades, academic researchers like Dr. Ian Stevenson at the University of Virginia have studied thousands of children who claim to remember past lives. These kids describe places they've never visited, people they've never met, and sometimes even speak in dialects they've never learned. In many cases, these stories check out. Death records match. Birthplaces are real. The names and events these children recall often correspond to actual deceased individuals, strangers with no connection to their families. Dr. Stevenson's research is among the most comprehensive in the world, yet it's been mostly ignored by mainstream science. Perhaps now, with government documents suggesting similar ideas, that will finally change. So, where does that leave us? Did the US government confirm reincarnation? Not officially, but through documents like the Gateway Report, it acknowledges the possibility that consciousness survives death, exists outside time and space, and may carry memory from one life to another. That is reincarnation in everything but name. The skeptics will say this is fringe science, but that doesn't change the facts. A high-level military report described consciousness as eternal. A page is missing. Real psychic programs were funded for decades, and scientists around the world continue to uncover unexplainable evidence that some part of us lives on. If even 10% of this is true, then the biggest mystery of life, what happens after death, may already be partially solved. And it was solved not by monks or mystics, but by the very institutions we trust to keep us safe. So now I ask you, if your consciousness is energy and energy never dies, who were you before this life? And who might you become next?